Who should have the power to decide abortion rights? How do abortion rights affect women in our country? And why does any of this matter? Find out on today's episode of The Controversy Chat.
Hello and welcome back to our podcast, The Controversy Chat. I'm one of your hosts, Chloe, and my co-host is Asta. Today we are joined by Kylie, a woman who has felt the impact of the recent overturning of Roe v. Wade firsthand. As you most likely will already know, abortion laws have been a very controversial topic in the United States. And in recent decades, it has been a deeply polarizing issue on a legal, moral, and political level. In the political aspect, people are mainly arguing on whether the federal or state government has the authority to make decisions on the right to abortion. And so we turn to our guest speaker now to hear her story.
I remember how excited I was when I first found out that I was pregnant with my second child. I also remember how that joy sparked when I found out that my child would be a baby boy, a little brother for my daughter, I thought. However, I didn't realize how short-lived my excitement would be. My physician soon explained that the fetus had alveolar holoprosencephaly, a condition where the fetus's brain doesn't develop into two hemispheres, but instead fuses down the middle. It's a very rare condition that happens in 4 of every million of fetuses. I felt frantic, asking my physician if this would affect the baby much. I was told that in most cases where this happens, the pregnancy is terminated. Before this experience, I had never really condoned abortion, but now I realize that abortion sometimes has scenarios where it is essential. The baby's head grows at a different rate due to this condition, and that essentially means I could risk my life giving birth to a child that would most likely not survive for long. I thought for a long while about this and wondered what to do, and I soon realized that I never had a choice in the first place. Texas's abortion laws are as strict as they get, so now I've come to think, what has happened to our country to leave women like me in a position like this?
Kylie's story demonstrates just how much the overturning of Roe v. Wade has affected women across the country. But what was Roe v. Wade? And what does it mean for women in our country now that it has been overturned?
Over 50 years ago, the Supreme Court made the decision to pass Roe v. Wade to protect a woman's constitutional right to get an abortion. This meant that any woman in the country had the choice of whether or not to get an abortion. They decided that the 14th Amendment meant that every woman had the right to privacy.
But on June 24th of last year, the Supreme Court made this decision to overturn the 50-year-old precedent, which gave the states the right to set their own laws on abortion. They said that this decision 50 years ago was an abuse of judicial authority and disagree with their interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Since then, many states have set limits or even outright banned abortion. This decision has sparked a debate between those who are pro-life and those who are pro-choice. The pro-lifers argue that having an abortion means you are killing the valuable life of the unborn child, while those who argue pro-choice say that banning abortion denies women's bodily autonomy and that they should have the right to choose whether to have an abortion or not. But why does this matter? And what would the founding fathers think?
That's really good questions, but we'll get back into that later. First, we're going to interview Kylie and ask her more about what she went through during her pregnancy and find out what her opinions on this topic are. Hi, Kylie. How are you feeling right now? And how has this experience negatively affected you? Please share your thoughts.
My family and I have been devastated. I was especially excited that I was pregnant due to the fact that I have an illness that makes it difficult to become pregnant. But now all I can think about is the fact that even in the luckiest scenario, he would stay alive for roughly a year or so and have to constantly be attached to different machines to help him survive.
I am really sorry to hear that, Kylie. So, which side of pro-life versus pro-choice debate are you on, and why do you think abortion rights are such a big deal?
I believe that the people should be able to have the right to choose whether or not you could have an abortion. I say this as someone who has never believed in abortions in the first place. Risking my life for this child wouldn't have been an issue if I knew that he could survive more than a year, at least, if he's lucky.
Many may wonder why abortion rights are such a big deal. Well, according to the data from census.gov, 15.4% of U.S. are women, which means that the overturning of Roe versus Wade gives half of our population less options to proper medical services. The fact that many women can no longer get an abortion from a proper medical facility means that they will turn to unsafe abortions. According to the World Health Organization, the least safe conditions are when abortion is carried out by untrained people using dangerous and invasive methods, a leading cause of maternal death. Unsafe abortion can be devastating to women, their families, and communities. Also, according to the Global Citizen website, in countries such as El Salvador, Madagascar, and the Philippines, they have ban against abortion. Many women die from either complications during pregnancy or unsafe abortion. About 500 women per year is the average in these countries. If we look at Kylie's story, we can see that while the states have the power to decide abortion laws, it means that in states that have banned abortion, such as Texas, where Kylie lives, women cannot have abortion even in dire circumstances.
Before Roe v. Wade was overturned, the Supreme Court decision meant that the states could not have the power to decide abortion rights. But now that it has been overturned, they do. The Federalists believed in one central government for the whole country. And in this case, it may be better for the government to have the power over the entire country for this issue.
Yes, and I'm going to stop you right here since some argue that Constitution does not mention abortion and there's no express power that includes the right to abortion. In the Constitution, under the 10th Amendment, states should have the right to enact on their own abortion laws. This reasoning is based on the idea that the power not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. With that being said, opponents might argue that abortion rights should be left to the states to decide. According to the constitutional law.region.edu, James Madison's words showcases how the founding fathers agreed that any moral question should be decided by the states. Also, I want to ask you, Kylie, if you did have the option to get an abortion, what would you think? What would those around you say?
I would have a pretty big moral dilemma.
I was raised in Texas with very conservative beliefs, so those around me say that getting an abortion could be morally wrong.
So abortion is very clearly as much as a political debate as it was a moral one.
I acknowledge your argument about the 10th Amendment, but even though the Constitution does not explicitly mention the right to abortion being given to the federal government, various Supreme Court decisions have recognized it as an intrinsic part of several amendments, especially within the Bill of Rights. For instance, the right to privacy is cited in multiple amendments, specifically in the 14th, which guarantees due process to all citizens, meaning that the states cannot exert undue control over the private lives of all citizens, which is what the Supreme Court's argument was when passing Roe v. Wade.
Now that we have heard both sides of the debate, but there is another point to be brought up. Why is abortion not mentioned at all in the Constitution? Though we will never have a definite answer, but there are speculations. In the Oxford University article, Abortion in America, The Origins and Evolution of National Policy, James Moore speculates that the Founding Fathers didn't mention abortion in the Constitution because rather than see it as a right, they saw it as simply a thing that a woman could get done. This may tie into John Locke's idea of natural rights, that everyone has set the rights they were born with. The Declaration of Independence states that people born with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. However, opponents may draw on John Locke's belief to argue that the support for abortion would impede the rights of fetuses, since opponents believe that the fetus is a human being with unalienable rights to life.
That just about wraps it up for us here at the Controversy Chat. And on today's episode, we learned that both sides certainly have a valuable and thoughtful reason over which government should obtain the control of abortion rights. Should the national government or state government decide the issue of abortion rights? While amendments like the 10th support the state having the power, amendments like the 14th support the federal government having this power. We believe that this issue isn't one that can be simply decided on, but we should still look into the Constitution and what the Founding Fathers said when voicing our opinions. We should listen to them because at the end of the day, the Founding Fathers' main goal was to create a fair and balanced government for American society.
Thanks to Grace for joining us today as Kylie, and thank you all for listening as well. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Asta, signing off from the Controversy Chat.